Fear the cat. This is my pet. I'm Rafiq. We're going over a deck tag. She's a good kitty. Who's a good kitty? Mwah.
Welcome to Super Fast Tortoise. Today, we're going to go over my Rafiq of the Mini Commander deck tag. Rafiq of the Mini cost 1 generic, 1 green, 1 white, and 1 blue to cast. Legendary creature, Human Knight. Power and toughness is 3/3. Rafiq of the Mini has 2 abilities that share the same theme. His first ability is Exalted. Whenever a creature you control attacks alone, that creature gets +1/+1 until end of turn. And the great thing about Exalted is the more instances of Exalted you have on the battlefield, the more they stack. For example, if you have 2 creatures with Exalted, the one attacking creature gets +2/+2 instead. Rafiq also has this second ability that says, whenever a creature you control attacks alone, it gains double strike until end of turn. Also, Rafiq of the Mini has some great art that would have been awesome for the Chronicles of Narnia. Your main goal and how to play the deck is as follows. On turn 2 or 3, play a creature. Then, the next turn, play a Voltron card or 2. Then swing in for up to 7 damage. Then, on your next turn, cast Rafiq of the Mini. Then swing in for up to 16 points of damage. Then on the following turn, play a few more Voltron cards. Then swing in big for 20 damage. And that, my friends, is up to 43 points of damage before turn 10. Then rinse and repeat this same strategy while playing a normal game of Commander. And doesn't that just get you excited? So now, let's get to the deck tag. Starting with the Voltron cards. We are starting the deck tech with the Voltron cards because it is the backbone of our strategy. So let's start with our Voltron creatures. First, we have Aven Squire. Then we have Ethercaste Knight, Knight of Glory, Qasali Pridemage, Giltspire Avenger. Then we have Sublime Archangel, who gives all our creatures Exalted, making our single attacking creature a big threat. Sovereigns of Lost Allura, who lets us search for insane auras from the deck, making our attacks more lethal. Moving on to our non-Exalted Voltron style cards, we start with Boon Satyr, who also can be used as a combat trick. We have Danitha, Capashen, Paragon, Hero of Iroas, Invisible Stalker, and Stone Coil Serpent. And to slip in a few infect creatures, we have the unblockable Blighted Agent, Ichorclaw Myr, and Necropede. Which brings us to tip number 1, Hyper Focus. To play this deck in a 4-player game, you have to focus a single player in your game from the start, in order to attain the biggest deficit result of life total loss of an opponent using your combat steps wisely. Now for the Aura and Equipment Voltron style cards. We have Bone Splitter, Dark Steel Axe, Ethereal Armor, Skull Clamp. Aqueous Form for some evasion. Helm of the Gods. All that glitters. Black Blade Reforged. Mask of Avacyn for a little protection. Staggering Insight. Swift Foot Boots. Spectral Flight. One with the Wind. Shielded by Faith. Shielding Plaques. Unflinching Courage. Armadillo Cloak. Sage's Reverie. Bear Umbra. One of my favorite cards of all time, Corrupted Conscience. Adding a little infect to the Voltron style cards. This also goes for removal, but most time I do put it on my own creatures. And finally, Eldrazi Conscription. Which leads us to tip number 2. Aggro matters. Your creatures are small and your strategy is big. Needing to attack as soon as possible, being aggressive first and hard is key to getting your desired results. Taking down a player's life total, painting yourself as a target and as a threat is important. Now on to mana ramp and fixing. We start with Caravan Vigil. Traveler's Amulet. Wayfarer's Bauble. Renegade Map. Fork in the Road. Rampant Growth. Cultivate. And Kodama's Reach. Now on to card draw and tutors. Starting with Kestia the Cultivator. She is one of the commanders you can choose for the deck. She is also both Voltron and card draw. Cold-Eyed Selkie. We have Siona, Captain of the Pyleas. If you can't tell by now, this deck is combat focused. Here we have Looter il-Kor. Vidalcan Heretic. Tireless Tracker. For our Enchantress style cards, we have Setessan Champion, Kor Spiritdancer, and we have Saram Senior Edificer. On to our tutors, we start with Heliod's Pilgrim, 3 Dreams, Open the Armory, Idyllic Tutor, and Eladamri's Call. Which leads us to tip number 3, Attack with Purpose. Creatures you have are genuine for this deck specifically. All your attacks should be calculated to the full extent of your game plan, from drawing cards to provoking blockers and your killing strike. This deck strategy is built into your combat phase. All your skill is in how and who you attack. Now for the removal. In this section, I had to sacrifice a lot of my removal for my aggro creatures to sustain my game plan. Having to use combat as removal through strategic planning and having the creatures to be blocked. We start with Path to Exile. And lastly, we have Swords to Plowshares. Which leads us to tip number 4, low removal spells. You have very few removal spells in this deck. You have to attack fast and use your combat phase to provoke your opponents into removal, using attacking creatures to lure bad blocks from other players. Now for the support group cards. These cards have no significant purpose but only to support the deck's theme and goal. Starting with Ardent Plea, Mirror Maid. We have Retether for when you need to get all your ores back from the graveyard. And finally, we have True Conviction. Which leads us to tip number 5, Politics. With this deck, you will become a threat fast. As a player, you will have high chances of your board being taken care of if you don't join the political landscape of the game. So please take note. Do not make any deals that require using mana or that has you putting in effort before your friends do. Always make deals that give other players the opportunity to fix your problems, and that can change before your next turn. Now to the last final part of the deck tech, the lands. This section can be improved only by using fast lands. Starting off, we have 7 islands in the deck. We have 7 plains. And we have 9 forests altogether. Now on to our non-basic lands. We start with Azorius Guildgate. On to Temple of Enlightenment. Tranquil Cove. Greypelt Refuge. Then we have Temple of Mystery, Thornwood Falls, and Yavimaya Coast, Castle Ardenvale. We also have the classic Command Tower. We also have Cathedral of War, Gyre Reach Sanitarium, and finally, Hall of Heliod's Generosity. And that brings us to the end of the video. Thanks for watching. Please like, subscribe, and hit that bell for notifications. And leave in the comments what deck makes you become aggro.